Hey there, this is Jason. It's April 22nd, 2023, and we are in the middle of a 2-day mini heat wave here in Southern California. Today, the temperature's hitting 85 degrees, and yesterday it topped out at 90 degrees in my part of San Diego County. Today and yesterday are great reminders that I need to go through and paint the trunks and exposed branches of my fruit trees. Those that are new in the ground need their first coating, and I need to go back over and touch up the coating from last year on some of my more established trees. So I do have a product that I use. This is one that I picked up at my favorite nursery here in San Diego called Walter Anderson, but it's called Go Natural Paint. It's specifically designed for trunks in that it is tree trunk brown color. And I know that some folks may think that that's a disadvantage to have anything other than white, but I do care about the aesthetics a little bit here of my orchard, and there's just something about a white painted trunk that just feels and looks so unnatural. And I know that white is going to have the best reflective properties, but I went with a light shade of brown just so the paint wouldn't stand out as drastically and kind of blends in a little bit more with the orchard. So again, because of the hot temperatures, I need to go through and look at what parts of my trees are exposed, and I need to give them every advantage they can get, because if it's 85, 90 degrees in April, that's a pretty good indicator that we may be in for some hot and dry days this summer in San Diego County. So I have one tree in particular that I want to show you why I painted it and what advantages it gets with that coat of paint, and how it looked when we first arrived, and then how it looks today, partially as a result of that paint job that I put on last year. So let's go ahead, let's take a look at one of my avocados. Okay, so when we first moved into this house, we had 6 avocado trees back here in this orchard. I have since removed 1, and now we have 5 remaining, and this was one of the more interesting avocados. I'm going to go ahead and circle around so you can see what we're dealing with here. The prior owner, whoever planted this tree, they decided to go with an open center, and while that might be great for many trees because it provides sunlight into the interior and it allows for increased airflow, that could actually be a bad thing when it comes to avocados, because avocados rely on that dense coverage. They rely on their leaves to cover up the bark and the branches so that they don't get sunburned. Avocado trees are very susceptible to sunburn. So here's what happened. They really went with a very, very dramatic open center. If you look here, there's a good, as it stands right now, maybe 3 feet in between the 2 ends of those branches. And you can really get to the center here, but that also leaves the center completely exposed to the elements. Now, when we arrived here, the main branches, which there are currently 4 of, were even further out. And this was a problem because the branches that were growing were coming out maybe 1 or 2 at a time, and they were growing very tall and skinny like, similar to what we have here, and they weren't creating that bushy full coverage that you would need from an avocado tree in order for it to protect the bark. So I went in and I took my handsaw and I cut the branches back approximately halfway, and sure enough, the tree rebounded, and we have plenty of nice green growth on it today. This is about maybe 7 or 8 months later. But even still, the center of the tree is still extremely exposed. Even though I think this tree is rebounding and I think it's a healthier tree today as compared to a year ago, there's still a lot of work to do. So let me give you an idea of what I saw when I cut the tree back. If you look closely into the center here of the tree, notice the color of the cross section. Now I know there's a little bit of shade. Let me see if I can move those branches out of the way so you can see the full thing. You'll notice that there's a color difference in the trunk here, and you notice the top part is a lighter gray color, and the bottom part, or what might be the left part in this video, is a darker color. Well, that top part, that lighter gray color, that is completely 100% dead. This is the part that is south facing, and the bark peels off easily. The bark is there. It's really just for show at this point. And this is completely dead. So I would say approximately 1/3 to 1/2 of these main scaffolding branches are completely fried. So if I was to let these main scaffolding branches sit any longer, the sun would just continue to hammer away and fry these branches even further until there's just nothing left. So as I get in closer to these main scaffolding branches, you can see the damage that was done over the years as a result of not protecting your trees. Now, I think this is a really extreme example, but it's an example nonetheless. So if you look here, I have painted it. I painted it last year. And if you look past that paint, you'll see that there's a few remnants here of the bark. Again, I could easily with my fingers just peel this bark away. I'm not going to, because it does provide some amount of insulation to the living tissue below. But approximately half of this branch is just completely shot. So I had no option but to paint these trees to make sure that I could pause or slow down the damage that was already done. Now, I went all the way in. I put a really heavy coating on this tree. I did not dilute the paint at all. I figured I needed as much paint on there as possible. And you'll notice that as the bark does fall off just naturally, that you've got some of that exposed, burnt, charred bark underneath. There is zero signs of life in that bark. And you'll also notice that there are no new branches or leaves coming out of this dead area. All the new growth is actually coming from the underside where the living tissue is. So while this tree may eventually rebound and I may get some coverage here with the leaves, it's all going to have to come from underneath. So this tree I was really concerned about last year, as you might imagine. I thought maybe this might be a goner. This was before I heavily pruned it back. I thought maybe it was just too far sunburned and too far gone that I would have to remove it entirely. I am happy with the progress, but I don't think I'm out of the woods yet. One of the things that's going to help me here is painting this thing and making sure that any part of the tree that is exposed to the sun, any part on the southern facing side of this tree, which is where I'm standing right now, it gets a healthy dose of paint. So I'm going to go ahead actually, and now that the sun is higher up in the sky today than it was when I applied my earlier coat, I'm going to go back and check over and see what areas I need to touch up. So again, I obviously haven't gotten any fruit off of this thing. This thing was so fried over the last 2 years while we were here. It never had an opportunity to send out flowers, and even if it did, those flowers, they never had a chance. Luckily, we've got some nice new foliage here that's coming in. We do have some clusters of foliage that are helping protect the very ends of these main scaffolding branches. So things are looking up. They're looking good, but this tree is not out of the woods yet. Painting, super necessary for this tree. And to prevent your trees from ever getting this bad, go ahead and paint them up right away, right now, before summertime comes. Good luck with your trees. Let me know, do you paint or not? And how are your avocados faring over the last couple days if you're a Southern California resident? All right, good luck.